Hey, what's up everybody, BDF 44 coming at you another video. Alright, so I decided to get out the house, do another one of them walks since I know it's good for me and we obviously know what's ahead. So let's get back in action as far as what is necessary to keep my brain where it needs to be. So I picked the hottest day to come out here, but shoot, it's probably gonna be hot tomorrow or even hotter, and I better be out here. So that's kind of the thought. Just, it wasn't only that. I think I may have actually gotten out the house even if this wasn't going on, because I just really felt like it today. I felt like a day I needed to be getting a little sunshine until I actually stepped out here and felt that hot sun on the back of my neck. Then I realized I probably should have wore a bigger shirt or something. But it's hot, man. it ain't that cool around here. It's a nice cool breeze, but that sun is beaming probably above 80, 82, something like that. It feels like to me. But I'm just trying to get myself out of the mindset I've been in. And, I did make that long therapy session that you guys have never seen. 40 long minutes. I just thought that thing had uploaded, but it didn't. And I had erased it to create more space for content. So I guess it wasn't meant to be seen, but I did think I said a lot of good stuff there. I ain't gonna lie. But all of that is out of my system, so ain't no sense in recapping something. Plus, I don't know if I could even do that again. But what it really comes down to is just being sick of the mental illness, man. Being sick of the mental illness and the fatigue. I further got into how I felt and how I'd like to feel, what I want God to do for me in a different way than what I had mentioned yesterday in the therapy session, where I named off a list of like 78 things that I figured I'd give God to consider, and there's a million more other things that I'd love for him to do for me. But today we're just thinking about the brief relaxation of not having to stress, which is what I'm dealing with right now. Even though I am stressing, there's nothing really to do today, and it will be a lot to do from here on out. So that's what I'm doing. I'm taking the one last day I have to not really focus on all that, to not, if I can, get myself out the house and get myself something else to think about. So that's what it is. I don't know how much longer I'd be in California, in this neighborhood. My boy T is helping me plot out some things. One of the options that it looks like is affordable is moving to Vegas. I don't want to live in Vegas, really, but I also don't want to be on the street out here. And it seems like I might be able to get an apartment in Vegas for something that's a little more cheap than what I would probably find. A lot more cheap, I guess you can say, than what I would find. But you got to deal with that hot weather. You see how I'm doing with this. And you talking about 110, 115, I'm going to want to get on a plane and get the hell out of there. I'll tell y'all right now, I'm not built for that. But, for the time being, you just got to find a way to get from now to January. That's really what it comes down to for me. From now to January. Once January sets in, at least we'll know what's going on with SSI. And from there, we'll move in that direction if that's what's best. But as far as I can tell, what's best for me right now is to just keep my mind fresh and ready for whatever possible positive opportunities that may be available. Of course, today's Sunday, so it ain't much to do but plot and plan. But I think for me, it's just I'm 100% reliant upon an extension being granted. And with that comes the condensed understanding that sorry, I got distracted by a butterfly that just flew in front of me right now. It looked like he was going to hit me. But nevertheless, it was one of those situations where, I want to make sure that I just keep my spirit right, because that's ultimately what I think I didn't necessarily keep on track, and because of it I was caught off guard. I think that anyway. And so letting the Lord back in and accepting the fact that this is okay for this to happen right now. Hopefully I can get the extension, is what I was saying before I got distracted, and that extension will allow me an opportunity, hopefully, to at least plot this out. Get the funds together, get the place wherever it's going to be. If I have to get my stuff shipped to another state, follow me or something like that, to follow me behind me rather. If I got to have my stuff shipped in after I get there, that's possible. If I have enough time to plot it out. I talked to my boy T. He seems to think that it's more likely they won't want to give me more than 2 weeks of an extension. But what I understand is that you can pay for your time. You can pay for that. So I don't know if they would be willing to, but given the circumstances, I really need them to. I really need them to. If they're gonna kick me out on Wednesday, it ain't gonna be a whole lot coming with me out of that apartment, as you guys know. I ain't gonna have time to really do much of anything. I could try, but and it's gonna be full-fledged storage day, and I have nobody to help me. And I ain't been behind any wheel of any type of vehicle in over a year. So as far as me moving my own stuff, I honestly don't know if that's a very safe thing, given the fact that I've never driven a U-Haul and haven't been behind a car. And most of my time has been spent in isolation. So it's like, it has to be done. So I guess it would be me by myself. I'm not as concerned about lifting stuff, although some of that stuff can't be lifted by yourself either. But it's like, I tell you guys, if God wants it to go this way, then it's obvious I'm not supposed to keep all this stuff. That's the way I see it. It's meant for me to leave with just my back and whatever I can carry out the door. And I tell you the truth, I don't really know what the hell I'm gonna do with that. I've never been in that situation. I don't know how it feels to not have your stuff, not to have clothes. I'm so systematic with my eating, you know what I mean, and how I operate. I really don't honestly know how I'm going to handle that. Never mind that it needs to be handled, and I adapted to pretty much anything. Just like I adapted to not having a fridge twice, adapted to not having various different things that I've gone without. You know what I mean? It ain't a big deal for me to adapt to crazy stuff. That's not abnormal for my personality. But the problem is, it is abnormal when you consider how much it is I'm losing at once, if it were to go down like that. Plus, it's the art. You know, it's really about the stuff in there that can't be replaced. The TV, I'm ready to get rid of that anyway. The entertainment system, I was ready to sell that. The table that I just purchased, what I like about that table is it's only $70. Now granted, when you're in my position, you shouldn't be saying only $70, but I do look at the grand scheme of things with that and just say it's replaceable. For some reason, that's the list, stay in there. That's how I'm looking at that. And then some of that other stuff just needs to go anyway. My computer, that thing is so outdated. It's got a lot of stuff on there that I would love to keep, but it's also a computer that I may not even plug up again for the rest of my life. So, you know, I want to keep it because there are things on there that I really want. But if it's between, like, you know, not getting got a choice, I'm not going to grab that, put it like that. So that's where my head is, y'all. I'm just hoping that the Lord is pleased enough with me in other areas to where he's not punishing me so hard in this area, knowing that a lot of what it is I'm doing is not out of defiance, but just knowing not really how to manage my own, you know, my own mind, basically, and my own anxieties, which as I seem to get older, seem to get more intense. Seems, I don't know, it's kind of hard to gauge that, to be honest with you. But I just know I ain't okay. I ain't been okay in a long time, and it seems like I'm getting worse with every passing stressful moment, or every passing stressful situation, that is. And so that's what I see here. It's just a person trying his best to hold on, leaning in on his faith, hoping that God will see some favor and giving him something that'll allow him to make up for mistakes that he ultimately probably prone to make again. So it's like, you know, I really, really wish there was something I could do to turn myself around and get right, function properly, so that I can be who it is that I used to be when I was working in Marina Harbor with my car. But I'll tell you the truth, there were mental hurdles at that time that weren't visible because I had all that I needed. That's the reality of it. Because my family had helped me as many times as they do, I'm so thankful. But because they had helped me get a vehicle, I didn't have to worry about transportation. And if I didn't have that transportation vehicle, the car, I'm pretty damn certain that I would not have wanted to work. I'm pretty certain that if for some reason the car broke down during the time I had that job, that I would not have wanted to go there unless I could absolutely afford Uber. I wouldn't have taken the bus at all. I wouldn't have done all the stuff that I have to do now without a car. I wouldn't have did it. And that's what I want people to understand. Unfortunately, the mental hurdles are always there. Even when I was overcoming those anxieties for short term, even when I had those different things going on, it was always something. It was always something, you know. But in that same breath, I really do look back now and realize that some of my anxieties, and I think this kind of goes without saying, but it's a bit understood right now for me, that a lot of my anxieties were developed after my mother passed. I think that's the truth, and I'm starting to think about that, even though I had some and plenty of them. I think the more intense ones that have come after her passing, and they had kind of subsided for a long time. long time throughout my adolescence, even though I had other issues, some of the anxieties and all that stuff that has started to reemerge. I had gone a nice long time, late teens and early 20s, where I didn't feel nothing like that. This is new. So that's kind of what's really going on. It's just feeling like I need to overcome things that I've already lived without having those struggles. And so it's like, come on, man. Let's get back to who we was, rather than think of this as something that's new. It's not new. Going to work, working, driving, all that stuff is not new for me. It's just I have to reincorporate it. Now the problem with being a driver in this situation too is I started driving late. I didn't start driving until I was till 30. Like I got my license at 25, but I wasn't actually behind the wheel till well after that. And so that's one of those situations where I just want to make sure that I don't develop any further into any anxieties or circumstances that would otherwise make me feel even less confident that I can do things that I've already proven I can do. Pretty well too, extensively, like driving. If I really honestly talk about how many hours I've actually spent behind the wheel, it shouldn't be too much for me to learn how to get comfortable behind the wheel again. I drove Uber for months. I drove all over the place, and there were times where at the job where I met my homegirl Kay at the Temple job, I actually used to drive around the garage area. I think this was before I made the channel. I'm pretty certain the channel wasn't up yet. I'm pretty damn certain I didn't have that up till I got to the Marina Del Rey working situations. But before that, I used to drive around, man. I might have had my channel. I don't remember if I started it around that time. I don't remember. But yeah, man, I used to drive around their garage because it was a construction site that had yet to start work on it. The first, I say, year I was there, it wasn't nothing being done but us just kind of being there at night, making sure nobody came on the property. And rarely did anybody do that. So it was kind of just like, I would literally waste gas in the garage driving around listening to music for hours. Like if we would swap every 2 hours, I don't remember exactly how me and my guard did it back then, but it would be, we go in for 2 hours, come out for 2 hours, something like that. If for some reason it was depending on the type of night I was having, I'd drive around in that garage, up and down that garage for like 2 whole hours. And that's what really taught me how to become comfortable behind the wheel, because that was really my first experience driving by myself. I had to drive all the way from this side of town to downtown every day, so that really got me used to it. And then after that, having that little stint where I worked with her, with Karen and Delicia for a couple, I think it was 2 years, something like that, a year and a half, something a little more than that. And I was able to get that driving really good in that garage, man. And that was when I really put in the hours that ultimately carried me forward. So confidence to be a driver is no brainer. It's just that when you take a long time off from doing anything and you got this type of head, you're gonna develop all kinds of fears and stuff that ain't even really there. The type of, and I think about my reaction time, and I proved to myself behind the wheel, it's almost kind of laughable. Because I remember I was able to avoid 1 or 2 accidents that I don't think too many people would be able to avoid. But with my reaction time and in those circumstances and the prayers and the Lord, all that, with his rhythm in my heart, I was able to avoid some pretty bad stuff just off of reaction time. And so that I would be so anxious about driving is kind of stupid, really, but it is what it is. My mom and dad both were exceptional drivers, so I think I have that naturally, but it ain't got nothing to do with the truth. It has to do with how I perceive my head and what I'm thinking is coming at me and what I'm feeling in my gut as I'm thinking about what it is I'm feeling. So all of that combined, and that's what anxiety is about, y'all. So I was talking to my boy T, and we were plotting out what's going on in Vegas. I think I started the video talking about that a little bit, but he was telling me they got stuff that you can do and move in there, put only a fraction of what we asked for down here with apartments, and get you a little spot. But the thing about it is I have to get a job first, of course. Out of state, it's a little different, because a lot of the support that I have monetarily, both GR, what I'm waiting for, obviously the food stuff, all of that's different once you cross state lines. You got to apply for their stuff, and no telling how they give people who just moved into state. You know, it's not the same. So I would need probably even more money to survive out of state. And if this is a problem here, turn up the heat about 30 degrees and then tell me to go somewhere I've never been and let my anxiety handle itself outside of state with no family around. I don't think that would go well for me. I really don't. I have hard enough time in my own hometown motivating myself to do things that's simple. If I don't get help before I leave this place, I really don't know what comes of me other than homelessness. I really don't know. I'm truly honest with everybody. I just don't see no other way. With my head and how I think how I am, I don't see no other way. They're just gonna sit in a corner somewhere and wait for things to get better, for which they would never. And I know I should think higher of myself, but 39 years, you get to know what comes naturally to you. And if I don't have nothing, I'm losing everything. I really don't know how I react to that particular fight or flight. You might want to get to the highest point and see what happens after that. And that's the worst way to think, but it's real. It's absolutely real. So, but it's one of those situations where it's like, I don't regret it. I may find myself miserable enough to regret it, but I don't regret it. And the reason why is because I did something that I respect. I stood up against corruption with my money. And I did it with hard earning money. I didn't necessarily just do it with my mother's money or family money. I did that with my own work money that I used my day, every day, all that anxiety, all that facing. This is what I did, was I used that to put myself in a position to have the money to buy all the stuff that I bought in this position. So now that I've done that, I don't think there's any reason at all, to be honest with you guys, for me to regret things going left as I perceive it. Because in some warped way, things were always going to go left with me. Things were always going to end up bad. I was going to end up quitting my job somehow, spending my money on weed and not really saving it. I probably wouldn't have saved it. I probably have more stuff, more Laker gear, stuff like that. But at the end of the day, I bought them shares with intentions of doing something with my life that I was hoping the Lord would honor me and the people who are doing this with me in doing. We know it's corruption. We also know they firmly have control. They, the bad guys, have firm control over that corruption. It's not a secret to me. I'm not that type of stupid. They, otherwise, without the presence of a living God, should be able to continue their process. But that He exists means that we are on the other side of it. We're going to be triumphant. That's what I say. Simply triumphant.
I just don't know where he's at.
And so when we become ourselves triumphant, I think at the end of the day, when you find yourself looking back on what happened, there are going to be casualties to this war. There are going to be people who end up on the wrong side of it. There are going to be people who don't live to see Moash. You know what I mean? Whether it's coming or not, there's going to be some people who just don't get the chance to see it. But they had better be dedicated if they're going to force it to happen. And I'm one of those people. Dedicated, I might not have did it right. I listen to King and Grace. He tells me I didn't do it right. I was a weak link. And that's why I encourage everybody to first get your mental health taken care of before you try to join anything. Any fight. Before you go to war, have your mind right, have your money right. So whatever war it is. I learned that lesson the hard way in this situation. But I wasn't going to sit here and wait till my time till I was right for this, because it wasn't about that. It was about when it happened. Whether you're ready or not, you better be ready. That's how these kind of things go. So I just went in head first, man, to learn what I needed to learn and put my money where my mouth was further, since I had already bought those shares before I actually knew what the hell was going on. But, it was what it was. And ever since, it's gone bad for me, like really bad. All the money that I was able to say I had, I never saw. I never sold. So I never actually had that money. And so we still wait for the betterment of our circumstance to happen, and it hasn't. And it looks like it's not going to be honest. But we also know that it's supposed to look that way. We know that if they're doing their job, that's exactly how it's going to look. So that doesn't sway us at all. At the end of the day, that's what it is. You have to believe in what you cannot see in order to effectively see something like this through. You got to believe in the fact that this ain't about you and you. It doesn't matter what happens to you, so long as you're forcing something big to happen for everybody else. If you're thinking unselfishly, you can make this happen. So I know it's a lot of people who don't believe in that. Like I said, if you don't believe in a living God, it looks like they have firm control over this. Don't get it twisted. Please understand what I'm saying to you. Right now, it looks terrible. But I believe in God. I know what He's doing. I know what He told my spirit leading up to this. So I don't have to acknowledge the math of the world as it pertains to this play. I already know what's going to happen. He already let me know what His intentions are. Now, how long that's going to take, He didn't say. And that's why it's one of those situations where it's like, all right, now if he would have told me this is going to happen on August 18th, 2023, and it went past that, then I'm like, oh, my faith is in trouble. No, Lord never said I'm going to do this on a specific day, just that I have plans for this play. And hold. That's what came to me a lot throughout the course of this process when meditating and praying on the situation, for the situation to be better, rather. So, I look at that and I say, I trust the spirit inside of me that's always told me the truth, been a better predictor than my doubt ever has been, as I tell you guys. And what does that mean to me? That means to me that I can walk by faith and not by sight as it pertains to this play. As it pertains to what we're doing. I don't have to look at a calculator to know the math. And so that's what it really comes down to, man. The numbers are fake, we know that. The shares are fake, we know that. So at the end of the day, all we have to do is understand that they've over-leveraged themselves beyond control. That's really all it is. They've over-leveraged themselves. And because they over-leverage themselves, they're in a position to, even if they dilute it completely, they still are on the hook for what it is that they owe, based on the massive amount of what they've done. See, if you can tell me that we've gotten rid of 90% of our shares, and I would think that you have it under control under normal circumstances. But what is 90% of like 16 trillion? What is 90% of 16 trillion when you're only supposed to be messing around with like 500 billion? You understand what I'm saying? 90% ain't gonna cover what you need. 90% ain't gonna even get you close. That's what we know. So, when they tell me 90% of what they had got erased, I say, you still have a long way to go. And in most cases in math, that is not the case. But in this one, it is. Because that's exactly how much we're talking about. So when you consider that, and remember, we're talking about people with God complex who have the ability to access everybody's money. Everybody. People with God complex with access to the entire world's economy, basically. Basically. Because if they ain't got their hands in it, they're a couple degrees of separation from it, no matter what. That's how big that is. So when you consider all that and it affects everything, and you know all that, because my brain knows all that, just by the sake of what it is that we're talking about in prayer, when I discuss with the Lord what it is that he wants me to do as I take on the sufferings and the punches that this thing ultimately throws in me, I'm reminded that with all due respect to those who don't believe in what I'm doing, it's kind of too big to fail. And it's not because of what we're doing, it's because of what they did in trying to respond to us realizing what they were doing. They triple, quadruple further down trying to kill us in it, and we didn't move. That cost trillions. So, as far as I can tell, there's nothing about this situation to make me feel like I failed. I took what I needed to take in order to be who it is I need to be within this play. Meaning, taking on the chin, getting beat up, knocked around, kicked around. That's what happened. I didn't mean that wasn't what was supposed to happen in order for this to take place. It probably is going to be a bunch of people, millions of people who are going to get knocked around, probably not even going to survive this thing, as I already said. But that ain't got nothing to do with whether or not this is worth doing, because it has to be done. If it don't get done, I'm telling you, it's only going to get worse. And trying to stop people like this when they have built what it is that they're building, you're right. You understand what I'm saying? You're right. So that's how that goes. You don't put yourself in a position to not believe in the process of something that when you prayed about it, the Lord already told you it's going to work. May not work in your favor, but it ain't about you. It's about me. It pertains to the Lord and what his plan is. Whatever he's got going on, your life is for that, not the other way around. He didn't create you to serve you. He created you to serve his purpose and for the entire collection of people that he's created, and what the example of one of us can do for many of us. And so that's what I'm here to tell people. I don't find myself correlating the results of my circumstances and the success of this play other than to say this is how it goes for a lot of us. This is how it goes for apes. You lose everything if you don't put yourself in a position to not be over leveraged. I taught you that lessons. The Hedgies taught you that lesson. You understand what I'm saying? We both taught you that lesson. You can't do it. You're going to find yourself in trouble. And I over leverage myself because of how I am and what I need to survive for the rest of my life. And my path is to getting that money. It doesn't exist. So my thing is, I ain't about to buy 3 and 4 shares. I need all the shares I can get to get myself out of the hole that I'm ultimately going to build for myself if I continue on the same path I've been on. For me, it's like I need everything. And I'm just going all in as a cowboy, and I don't care. I didn't see them diluting these damn shares. Nor did I know when this was going to happen, so I never felt it was a good day to sell out of the position no matter what. So that's how I looked at it. And just as being an 8, you just grow kind of immune to certain things. Like, I don't react to price action at all. Not anymore. Not even as it's been doing what it's doing lately. I'm just kind of numb to it. That's what being in this play this long does to you. You don't even care about price action. You don't expect to win anything. And that's exactly what it is, a freaking lottery at this point. Unless the Lord can swoop in and expedite this process. Otherwise, it's going to take a long time, in my opinion, for this to really work out for folks. And so that's what I'm looking at. I'm not trying to be a fudster at all. I just understand the corruption is in place, and it's going to require that type of dedication to say, I believe this could take a long time, and I'm not going away. That's all I'm saying to you guys. Now, if it happens to happen really soon, then hooray. You know what I mean? But just like a Christian ain't gonna stop believing in Christ because he ain't came back, it's the same way you gotta approach this Moaz thing. Same way. That's why it works for me, because I know that. For the people who don't believe, it may be foreign to try to even do something like this. And they know that. They know that. They know a lot of people don't have any faith. They're self-serving. Hell, a lot of what is out there is teaching us how to be that way. So it's not gonna be about whether the average mind is gonna see this opportunity all the way through. The average mind is basically taught not to. Which is another reason why I'm in the way that I am. Because I understand what's required for it to work. And people like myself, there's going to have to be plenty of people like myself who ignore what makes sense and goes all the way in. Because that's how we come together to actually match what it is they're doing. If all of us only buy 1 share and try to be all this careful and all of that, as super as careful as otherwise conventional wisdom tells you to be, it's probably don't happen. It's probably don't happen. You need people to go absolutely nuts on this side to build where we're at. Now that we're here, that is not what I think is required for the squeeze anymore. I don't. And I want people to understand. As I said earlier, I think this thing's too big to fail. They say they erased 90% of what they did and still ain't nowhere near where they need to be to cover. They ran the shares all the way down to 150 something, and they ain't covered nothing. So if they ain't covered when they drove it all the way down there, that lets you know how far they need it to fall for them to cover. So for those who don't follow the stock market, as I told you guys in another video, go follow Keenan Grace. He has all kinds of financial literacy videos that really, really make it easy for the layman to understand. And he knows all about AMC, and he's a lot wiser than me. So that's why I tell people, if you really want to know, I got Abe's videos that you can check out. But if you want some real knowledgeable person, Keenan Grace's channel is where you find not only that kind of stuff, but a lot of stuff that I think is really, really good. And he's also on the list, prayer list. So yeah, man, it's one of those situations where it's like, for me, BDF 44, I just saw an opportunity to take all this faith that I have, all these weird, ways that I have that ultimately, to my benefit, actually saves money by my lifestyle. Because I don't go nowhere, I don't date, I don't, you know what I mean? There's a lot of stuff that, because I'm this way, I can hold on to like $7,000 for a whole year and live off of it. You know what I'm saying? Like literally did it last year. So that's why I also felt that I could over leverage, because I know I'm only responsible for myself, and I'm severely low maintenance and barely go anywhere. So if it wasn't for my weed habit, we would be even much better position, but I gotta manage the head somehow, and that's what I found works for me in this life, or so it seems. So that's what I'm telling people, man. This 8 thing, there's 2 truths in this. One, it was a huge, huge mistake for me to get in it the way that I did it. 2, I would make that mistake every time the Lord makes me live this life. Every single time. If he brings me back here, I'm probably not going to do anything different. If he tells me to start this thing over, I'm still going to do the same thing in regards to that play. It's going to end the same way because I believe in it that much. So it's not even about whether or not I believe in it. This is when you know the truth. You don't let people who are not aware of what it is that you know put you in a position to shake your confidence in what it is that you already been confirmed. And that's what this is. It's confirmed for me that this is something the Lord wants me to do. Whether I benefit from it or not confirmed. But that I throw myself into it to the best of my ability was something that I was given the goal to do. Spiritual. And I've been continued and coached more or less to continue this process all the way up to this point. And boy, has it been difficult. But I expect that if I did it, maybe the Lord would be kind enough to do all the nice stuff necessary to get me to heaven, as I've been talking about a little bit more lately. Get me to heaven to see the people I love. So if this is what it takes to fulfill his purpose on my life, then damn it, I'm holding some shares and buying more, and I'm gonna do everything else until this thing is over. That's it. And so yeah, that's what I want people to understand. Heck no, I don't regret being an 8. This is exactly what I told you I would do, and I'm proud of myself for actually seeing it through. I told y'all, I don't give a damn if they evict me from this place. I ain't selling out of my position. I did it. So that's the reality of it. And so for all of my anxieties and fears and all that, I weighed against that type of thing. That's why I have the confidence to be vulnerable to y'all and expose myself for all of my flaws, because I know my strengths. That's what it really comes down to. For all of the things that are wrong with me, there are some things that are very much in my favor, so long as I stay on the right side of the Lord. And one of them is this stubbornness. If it pointed in the right direction, it can't be stopped. I can't even override it. So that's what I'm here to tell people. You know, at the end of the day, I'm an 8. I'm an 8. And we reimagine the way that we consider that word. There are many people who would be like, yeah, you sure are N-word. And I would tell you, that's not what we're talking about. That's not what we're talking about. And you should honor the apes no matter what our color is, because we're going to help you stop being robbed from for the very first time. My name is BDF 44. I thank you all for watching.